Good morning. If I look a little scraggly, it's because I'm up early, just drank some coffee, and I'm about to hop in a van with the band and go play a show with no rehearsal, no time. I got a call like a day ago. Bass player can't make it. Is there any way you could do this gig? I said yes. So today, I'm going to talk about some tricks or maybe just helpful things if you find yourself in this situation, which you eventually will. You got to show up. You don't have time to prepare. You don't have time for a rehearsal, but you have to do a good job. So these are some things that hopefully will help you. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is efficiency. So really, I just had a few hours last night and a little bit of time this morning before I have to go. So how do you use that time the best that you can? So what I did, the first thing I did when I got the call is I made a Spotify playlist with all of the songs in the correct order. And then also I made a note of all of the keys of the songs. So what that means is when I'm listening to the set and learning the songs in my mind, I can also learn the set order and the flow. So it's not just knowing the songs, but it's knowing the set, right? So knowing how the songs will flow together. And then also, I can practice bass in my mind if I know the keys. Because if you know your intervals, if you know your chord changes, you can start to hear the numbers in your mind. Maybe that's something we'll talk about more in another video, but Nashville numbers, intervals is a super helpful system where you can hear chord changes and then assign them to any key. So if I know the key, I can practice in my mind. So for example, if a song's in B flat, I'm listening to the song and I hear, okay, the chorus is 4, 1, 6, 5. In my mind, I can say, well, the first chord of the chorus is E flat. It's the 7th fret of the A string. We're going to go down to B flat on the 7th fret of the E string and walk down to G, right? This is an example. If you know the key that you're in and you can hear the changes, you can practice in your mind. So yesterday I had like 2 hours in the car. I was able to listen a lot. I think that's the most important thing, is listening more than you think that you need to, and not actually necessarily listening with your instrument in your hand, because I think listening is the most important thing any musician can do ever. Listen as much as you can, because I'm not just learning the songs, but I'm also learning the spirit of the song. Like, it's not just knowing the notes, but it's knowing what the song is, like the melody of the song, the feeling of the song. I listen to the lyrics and try and get the sentiment of the song, because everything that I'll do as a bass player is hopefully going to be in support of that abstract essence of what the song is. Because we're not going to do these exactly like the record. I think when you play live, it's a snapshot of a moment in time, a specific moment that exists once and it won't come back. Whereas when you record things, it's a moment that lasts forever. So you reference these eternal moments when you listen to the recording, but then you recreate a finite moment that only happens once on stage. So how do you do that then? You need to understand what the song is, the essence of the song, so that you can, in real time, play what needs to happen. It's almost like, I used to get stressed out about learning music note for note. And a good friend of mine gave me some advice. He said, it's almost like you're not memorizing the information. You're creating a computer program in your mind to run a program of what should happen in the moment, right? So you don't have to memorize everything note for note, but you do need to understand what the song is and what the vibe is, and then you can run that program in your mind. What does the song need in this moment? And to do that, you need to understand what the song's about and the vibe of the song. That same concept with the program thing, you can apply that to your influences as well. Like you can create like programs in your mind of like, what would Donald Duck Dunn do in this moment? What would Pino Palladino do in this moment, right? You can like call on your influences, your mentors, and run the program in your mind of how would they play this moment. And that's really helpful when you're trying to come up with a vibe, or you're trying to come up with what should happen. So the point is, you don't have to play the record note for note necessarily, but you do need to play the spirit of the record in the moment. And the only way to do that is to listen, right? So if I spent my time just charting this music and then playing it down, I feel like I would be ill-equipped to be in the moment. That's why I didn't chart this. That's another thing. I could chart this set. I feel like it would be acceptable to chart this in this short amount of time, but a hill that I will die on is I don't think you should chart or have charts on like a rock gig or an indie gig or a country gig, or like there's exceptions, but in general, if you're playing with an original artist on an original gig, I think it's a bad look. I think it's unprofessional to have charts on stage, frankly, because you're going to be focused on reading that chart and not on the moment. I decided that instead of spending an hour to chart the songs and then just show up and read the charts, I would spend 3 hours and memorize the music, because I think the show is going to be better if I do that than if I have charts. Personal opinion, I'm going to stick to that. I don't think charts are always the answer. So, didn't chart it, learned it by ear. But I will say, before I started practicing, I did do one more thing. I got my sounds together. So I want to show you my pedal board that I put together last night. So, pretty straightforward. Tuner. This is a really great fuzz pedal. I did a video about this a few weeks ago, the Kazlitter Albatross. These are handmade by a guy in Hungary. Basically like a great bass player's fuzz, because it's not, you still have a lot of low-end information, and it doesn't go off the rails, but it gives you so much like warmth and grit. I love this fuzz. This is the 1176 compressor that is made by Universal Audio, and a lot of these songs that I'm referencing, they have a lot of creative compression. The bass is like really like beefy, so this is going to be helpful to accomplish that vibe. And then I've got this reverb pedal, which, I mean, maybe you're like, reverb on bass. I actually love reverb on bass, depending on the context. This is a spring reverb, and it also has a tremolo, and I think it's appropriate because a lot of these songs kind of have a country vibe, like an old outlaw country vibe, so I might play with a pick on some songs and kind of go with like a bass six or a baritone sort of western vibe, and this will let me do that. And then finally, I love this. I use this all the time. This is the Origin Effects Super Vintage, and this is an always-on, saturated, clean sort of vibe for me. This is basically a SVT in a box because I'm going into a solid-state amp for this gig. So this gives me a saturated quality signal I can send to front of house. The reason I'm showing you all that is now that I've done that, now that I put in the time to do that first, when I pick up my bass to practice, I'm not just learning the songs and getting comfortable playing the set, but I'm also able to fine-tune the sounds. I'm practicing the music, but I'm also practicing the tones. So again, this is about efficiency, right? We're multitasking here because we have limited time. So last night, I just ran the set 2 or 3 times, and then this morning I got up and ran it again, and I think it's as ready as I can be because there is such a thing as over-preparing. I used to do this a lot. I could have stayed up late last night and run the songs 1,000 times. I probably would have done that at one point in my career, but I have learned that rather than doing that, I would prefer to be rested. Being rested and being mentally sharp is more valuable than being over-prepared and exhausted. There's sort of a sweet spot you have to find. Where is the point that you stop and you put your bass down and you rest versus keep going? Another thing, here's like a little easy trick I'll show you. I like to put my set list on a piece of cardboard instead of a piece of paper because this isn't going to get all bent. This is something that I can just throw in my bag. It also has a little more weight to it, so it's not going to blow around on stage. I actually take paper tape to gigs, so I'll probably just take a little piece of paper tape and tape this to my pedal board so that this won't blow away. And now I have everything I need here. I have the keys to all the songs. I also made a couple notes of when I'm going to use effects, because when I'm on stage, I'm going to forget because I haven't run this set before. So it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to put the compressor on at the top of the set. Other things that I usually make notes of are like if there's if you're in at the top or you're not in at the top. Because if I'm not in at the top, I can listen and be like, oh yeah, that's how the song goes. But if it's something the band counts off together, I need to know the first chord that I'm hitting, right? You can't wait to hear it. You have to be there at the top. So I'll give myself little reminders like that. Or also if there's one song on here that has a song form that's unconventional, and it's like you have to remember how the song goes. So I made a note like reminding myself, think of the form. And one trick with that song in particular is instead of counting measures, I'm using lyrical cues. There's specific times where there's a chord change. So in my mind, what I did is I memorized the phrases that happen before that chord change so I won't miss it. It doesn't feel natural to go to that chord when it does. It's beautiful. It's a well-crafted song. I love the song, but it's not like intuitive, right? So when I hear Sam say specific lyrics, that's my cue that the next measure I need to go to that chord, right? So little tricks like that. So those are the kind of notes that I might make on a set list. I should say the artist is one of my oldest friends, one of my favorite songwriters, Sam Burchfield. So if you don't know Sam Burchfield, you should definitely check his music out. He's absolutely amazing, and this band is amazing as well. I'm really honored to get to fill in. Also, the bass player that I'm filling in for, I have a lot of respect for. Oh, and I'll show you too the bass I'm taking real quick. This is my JMJ, Justin Meldell Johnson signature bass. It's a 30-inch Mustang, and I've done some mods to it. The bass comes with Seymour Duncans, which are great, but I put in Curtis Novak fat sounding pickups. And I love these pickups. I changed this thumb rest as well. This is a great bass. This has been my sort of daily driver for gigs for the last like 5 or so years. It's really comfortable for me because I have this like chronic hand injury, so it's just really comfortable for me, but I fell in love with the Mustang sound. And I actually have a couple videos about Mustangs if you're interested. So for the gig, I'm using this bass. I'm just excited. I love these sort of things. I went on the road with a band overnight to St. Louis when I was 16, 17 years old. And I caught the bug of just like, I'm off on an adventure. And that's what made me fall in love with playing music, having an adventure. So this is a little adventure today. Going out on the road with the band. I don't really know all the guys and there's no rehearsal. It's a musical adventure. How cool is that? Hey, I'm taking a break from editing this video, and I wanted to invite you to something. I'm really excited about the sense of community that we're starting to get on this channel, and that's because of you. So thanks for being a part of it. I want to lean into that, so I think we should do a live event. So what I think I'm going to do is a live creative bassline building workshop. It'll probably be on Zoom, so it'd be like a digital class you could attend live. So I'd be on there and we could talk about writing bass lines and ask questions and hang out, and I think it'd just be a fun thing. So if that's something you're interested in, I'm going to put a link in the description. And yeah, now that that's out of the way, we'll get back to the video. Hey, so I just got done with the gig. It went really well. It was a joy. I love playing live music with people, and I don't take for granted that that is such a privilege to get to do that. Sam is awesome. If you don't know Sam's music already, I'm gonna put a link in the description. He's one of my favorite songwriters. He's been grinding so hard for 10 years, over 10 years, and he deserves any success that comes to him. So support Sam, check his music out, because I'm genuinely a fan. And also the other musicians, Colin and Ryan, top-notch musicians. It was a joy to play with them. A couple observations from the gig. I'm so glad that I decided not to chart it, because there are some changes. There were things that were different than the record, and there should be. And there were some like creative things that they had arranged since they'd recorded the albums. So things that I wasn't able to prepare for. And if I'd been staring at charts, I would have not been present. I wouldn't have been making eye contact, and I wouldn't have been able to follow or anticipate those changes as well. So I'm really glad I wasn't looking at charts for this. So the guitar player, Ryan, he was able to like mouth the numbers that were coming up if there was a change in the form, Or I was able to watch Colin for like a rhythmic or a groove change. If you watch drummers and drummer body language, you can anticipate syncopations or hits or things like that. It validates my choice to not chart the gig. It would have gone totally different in a not good way if I've been looking at charts. So I'm gonna die on that hill. If you can get away with not charting, it's better every time. It's better every time. There are times where you really have to chart. I remember a few years ago I was in a similar situation, but instead of a 45-minute set a day away, it was a 2.5-hour set a day away. And I decided to chart that whole show because that's too much music to memorize in that amount of time. Music's great. I love music so much. Sorry, it's kind of raining. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any tips on how to jump into a gig last minute like this, put them in the comments. If you want to support this channel, I have some affiliate links now to the gear that I used. I earn a small commission on those. Or if you want to take the next level with your bass playing, maybe be a little better equipped to jump into a situation like this, I have a bass course. And I think that's a really good way to take the next step in your playing. Those are 2 ways you can really support this channel. And if nothing else, just subscribe. That really does help me out. And I'm really excited about the community that's starting to happen on this channel. I'm glad that you're a part of it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.
On the drums over there.